Hi everybody, welcome back to 10 Minute Traveller. This is part 10, and this is going to be an interesting little episode because I'm going to be covering a few of the things that you don't normally see when people talk about Traveller, especially the Little Black Book classic version. And I'm going to cover three main things: drugs, computers, and money. So drugs, computers and money. Let's start off with drugs. In Book 2, Starships, there's actually a chapter called Drugs, which I've got up here on the screen right now, with specific drug types on there. Drug availability, what type of drugs there are, what they do, all of those are on there. And there's a little rundown here of actually what they can do for you. In most of the games of Traveller I've played and seen, and actually I've been involved in running myself over the years, I've probably been very remiss in not really talking about drugs. For a long time, I think people tend to have a feeling that drugs is something that's bad. Whereas in the future, maybe people use drugs to do all sorts of things, recreational of course, but also to enhance the things that they do. So there are drug rules in the game, but they're very, very small, a couple of pages at the most. Interestingly, a lot of the drugs that are in here don't really give you many advantageous effects, and as you can see actually there's only 2 pages. It doesn't give you much advantageous effect. The slow drug gives you a little bit more hit points essentially. The fast drug gives you a little bit more physical advantage as you go. There's a medical drug, but the medical drug is not something that you take and suddenly you get hit points back or anything like that. So drugs are there. I think it's well worth the referee reading through them, understanding what they do and understanding what they can do for the players as well. I would say that the players do need sometimes a little help, and drugs can be one of those ways. Okay, so that's drugs. Not much to say about them really, apart from it's up to you as the referee to decide whether or not they're available and how they're available to the players. You can make your own drugs as well. It's quite a simple process in the game. Essentially what you need is a tech level, how available they are, and what the effect of them is. I would recommend not creating drugs that could heal people. That's my main thing. Don't have a healing potion. Combat is supposed to be deadly, it's supposed to be dangerous, and the idea that you get shot by something like a shotgun and then you can take a few tablets and that'll make you feel better, then that's bending some serious laws of physiology, I think. For a game that's set in the far future, computers is an anomaly in Traveller. It's a big anomaly in Traveller if you're playing the first and second editions, the ones that I'm talking about here, because this game was conceived at a time when computers were not personal. This is before the PC, this is before the Mac, this is way before the smartphone. So what we have here are computers by what most people at the time would consider to be small if they fitted into a small room, and normal computers took up large rooms with air conditioning, temperature control, and you programmed them with one program at a time to do a thing. So the computer rules in Traveller are based around that idea that there is a computer that you give programs to it, and it has a certain amount of space that you can run those programs in. Now, although that sounds quite archaic, there's actually an awful lot of logic to that, and there's something that adds to the flavour of the game as well. And what it's doing is it's giving you a chance to have those computers on board ships that have become tools. They've become things that you see every day, you use every day, and you've forgotten about. Technology has moved on, and we're no longer wowed by the fact that we can get information in certain places, or we can display that in head-up displays, or in your glasses, or contact lenses, or whatever it may be. It's no longer a thing that makes you think, that's great technology. Later on in one of my videos, I'm going to cover world building. And in world building, I'm going to talk around the idea of tech levels, technology levels. But ultimately, the computers that are used in the game are tools. Now, there's very little in the main starting books that talk about computers other than the ones that you'll find on a ship. And usually the software that you would get for the computers that you have on a ship are there to augment people's skills. So, for example, a targeting program will help you shoot a moving target. A maneuver program will help you steer the ship. An evade program will help you get out of the way of something, and so on and so forth. Ships need computers. You can't fly a starship without a computer. You can press some buttons and nothing really will happen because the computer's required to tell the jump drives when to jump, to tell the maneuver drives when to light up, to tell the turrets that are automatic where to point, to tell the landing bay when to deploy, and many, many other things, including the gravity mechanics of the actual systems themselves on the ship, the life support systems, and so on and so forth. Because computers are a tool, however, you can ignore them to a certain point. Computers work. You get computers on your wrist, you get computers on your phone, you get computers on your portable computer, and the technology level, even up to technology level 15, which is the one that most in Traveller is seen to be the highest, I should say. In that respect, computers just deliver information. One of the other things as well about computers is the way that you interface with them. Now, I'm a sucker for a good Hollywood computer interface that goes back to the basics. Something like Alien, where you have the mechanical keyboards and the bleeping screens, green screens and amber screens that I remember from my childhood. You can also see now that a lot of people that envisage science and fiction think that we're going to have holographic computer screens in the air that you wave your hands around and things happen. I don't know. I don't know if people would want to really do that. This trend of having computer screens that are see-through, surely that's distracting. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Ultimately, however, in Classic Traveller, at least in my Classic Traveller, that doesn't happen. Your computers that you have are solid, metal, hot, bright, dirty, abused, with food over them, that sort of thing. What about computers you can speak to? Well, you can speak to the computers in Traveller in the way that you could speak to any other computer today and beyond. I've always been concerned, however, that if the primary method of getting a computer to do something is to talk to it, then surely that would start to get quite chaotic when you're dealing with a bridge of maybe 4 or 5 people. So you still need to have physical interface with the computer to get it to do something. Anyway, just to round up, yes, computers in Book 2, there's about 4 pages of information. Page 38 lists the computer software that you can get. And then on page 41, it will actually go through what they actually do and the skills that they infer to your players. Read through what they do and the bonuses that it gives you. You should understand the space that it takes up. So something like a Predict 4 takes up 3 parts or 3 spaces on a computer. A computer will only have a finite amount of space. So a computer 10 would have 10 slots. That would be 3, 4, 5 for that one, 6, 7, 8, 9 for that one, and maybe 1 for that one or whatever. And then there'd be some other routine programs that you would want in the background anyway. Library computers, anti-hijacks, navigation, that sort of stuff. So it's not too difficult. You could make it more complex if you wanted to. The final thing I wanted to talk about is money. Now, I've got the pages here open again on book 2, page 46, trade and commerce. But I'm not really talking about trade and commerce in this section. I'm just going to talk about the idea of money. Now, in Traveller, you use a credit. A credit is a thing that you can use to buy something. And you can see that there's equipment out there that costs a credit or 100 credits or 1,000 or 10,000 or 1,000,000 or whatever it may be. So credits are worth something. So how do you get them? Well, you tend to get them by working or by finding something, same way that you do today. You earn credits in whatever way. Some of you will earn lots of credits, some of you won't earn many credits at all. You need credits. You need credits to pay for things, and in Traveller it's extremely important, if you want to keep the game flowing, that you have a good credit accounting system. Now, in other games, not having money tends to not be such a big deal. If it's fantasy, I've yet to hear of somebody running a campaign where everybody starves to death because they can't afford a meal. Whereas in Traveller, it's possible that you could get stuck at a location without enough money to get some fuel, and that's where you will stay. So money's really important. Also, there are running costs. And that's something that you really do need to keep a handle on if you're the referee. It's your job to remind the players that they don't get things for free. And stocking at a star port, or going down to the planet and refueling, or paying your staff, your crew members, routine maintenance, licenses, they all cost credits. And so they need to be paid. And usually they're paid on basically a monthly or yearly basis. So that sounds quite boring for people that don't like accounting. But actually, spreadsheets and things turn a lot of people on, and it can be something that's quite enjoyable and a satisfying experience to at least keep those things balanced. But don't make it too complex. If the game is just entirely based around the fact that you're trying to keep a bank balance going, I'm not so sure that that's a game for everybody. I want to get back to money for a second, though. What is a credit? Well, a credit is one of two things, and now I'm really diving into more house rules than I am actually in the book, because it doesn't really explain things in book 1, 2 and 3 about money very well. So in my Traveller games, money is based around the credit, but the credit is broken down into two possible types. Well, actually, money is broken down into more than that, but the credits are broken down into two. You have localized credits and you have trading credits or Imperial credits, depending on what. My game is based around the Imperium, and the players are in the Imperium, so you have an Imperium credit. So local credits. You do something on a planet that somebody's asked you to do from that planet, and they pay you. Now, normally, you would get paid in credits if everybody's understanding that you are travelling away from that planet at some point. That's what you want to be paid in. You could be paid in a harder currency, as in the local currency, like dollars, pounds, whatever, euros, and then try to translate those into credits. Now, the problem there comes, of course, is how much is $1 in credits. On the planet, it might be worth 2 credits. But when you take that dollar to another planet, it might be worth nothing at all. So that's something that you and the referee need to consider. You have a whole bank vault full of localized currency. Could be worth nothing when you leave there. What about gold? What about diamonds? What about those things? Well, yes, usually precious metal, precious items will be worth approximately the same type of value somewhere else, and for trading purposes, that's what you're banking on. However, if you're keeping precious metals or gold, or gems or something as essentially your currency, remember that Planet A might have an abundance of gold when you really desperately need money, and your vault full of gold is worthless. So just be careful about that. And again, the referee needs to make a decision. What I've done in my game, however, is I've informed the players around the idea of this Imperial Credit. Now, the Imperial Credit is an idea that I've really put together with a basis of blockchain computing. Now, I'm not going to go into what blockchain is. It's boring. It's not very exciting, and trying to explain it to people only ends up with them thinking you're boring and not very exciting. But ultimately, what happens is your money is translated into a mathematical algorithm. It's stored as that mathematical algorithm, and a value is attached to it. That storage and that key is based upon you. Now, you can decide it's based upon something to do a unique identifier of the person, their DNA, fingerprint, if you want to go down that path, or iris check, or whatever it is. And it's locked into that algorithm. So you will get 100 credits in an algorithm locked onto a computational device. Could be the computer on your ship, could be a USB drive if you want to envisage it that way. It could be a chip under your skin that keeps your credit. And the good thing about that is that it's there with you all the time. So when you go to somewhere else that accepts Imperial credits, then that value stays the same. If it was 100 credits on one planet 2 jumps ago, it's 100 credits when you reach the planet 2 jumps away. It's still the same. It's also completely unique to you. And what happens is that you pay for things by unlocking that algorithm and transferring that essentially part of that algorithm to something else. So if you want to pay for something, 50 credits, your algorithm will now say you only have 50 Imperial credits, and the person that you have given those 50 credits to, they will have plus 50 credits. Now, the reason that I do it this way is because how does Bank A on a planet that's 10 jumps away from Bank B know that you've got money? It doesn't. So your money has to travel with you in a safe and secure but trusted way. So if everybody buys into that algorithm, then what you have is a trusted form of currency. Downside is, who trusts it and who sets that trust? Do you believe the Imperials when they say that this is unbreakable, nobody has a key, or not? Well, that's something in my game that the players have to cope with. But banks and storage firms and arms dealers and space stations or whatever it may be have to deal in credits somehow. So that's a reasonably good way of doing it. How do you do your money? That's up to you. But it's something that you should consider. Remember that jump travel between stars, between sectors, is a week-long process, and it's faster than the fastest wavelength in terms of any communication system, be it laser or meson or whatever it may be, tachyon even. A jump drive will get you there faster. So because of that, you cannot transmit your bank balance from one place to another. Okay. And that's it for this. I think I've overrun my 10 minutes. I'm really sorry. So those are just some of those bits and pieces that you hear about drugs, about computers, and about money. In my next video, I'm going to be looking at world building. And I think to get on with that, we need to talk about what makes up a world in Traveller. Okay. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.